And next on my list, the distinguished representative of Jamaica, His Excellency, Mr. Wayne McCook, Permanent Representative. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. The delegation of Jamaica joins in congratulating you on your election to the co-chair of this important meeting. We want to thank also the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General, Ms. Margaret Wallstrom, and her office, as well as fellow members of the Bureau for their contribution. Jamaica, as a small island developing state, accords high priority to comprehensive disaster risk reduction. Building on the HIOGA framework for action, we have elaborated national policies that emphasize preparedness. We have also pursued mitigation projects, infrastructure hardening, and integrated early warning systems, especially for vulnerable groups. We have also played an active part in the development and implementation of DRR policies at the regional level through the Caribbean Disaster and Emergency Management Agency, CEDEMA. It is against this background of focused implementation of key HFA goals at the national and regional levels that we consider the way forward in elaborating the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. We are convinced that without the coherent international approach to DRR, guided by the HFA, many of the gains that we have witnessed would not have been achieved. At the same time, we recognize that we have struggled with certain HFA goals, such as ensuring that DRR is a national and local priority with a strong institutional basis for implementation, establishing and strengthening measures to identify, assess, and monitor disaster risk, and enhance early warning and reduce underlying risk factors. Furthermore, new challenges in the area of DRR have emerged that require our focused attention and the setting of goals and priorities that are responsive, measurable, and attainable. We are therefore convinced that a meaningful post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction must, inter alia, address the link between DRR and climate change, continue work to mainstream DRR in strategic development policies across all sectors, promote further resilience building, especially at the community level. We are also convinced that now is the time, and this is a process, through which we must build on the momentum from cross-cutting and complementary discussions that affect DRR, including in particular those relating to climate change and the elaboration of the post-2015 Sustainable Development Goals. It will be important for the international community to ensure that there is coherence in all the mechanisms that are being developed to address these related goals. Permit me to focus on the issue of climate change and DRR, which is of particular concern to Jamaica and other Caribbean countries, most of whom are SIDS. A robust agenda for disaster risk reduction must complement and be complemented by determined action on climate change. We all recognize that although certain climate change effects are unavoidable and can therefore only be addressed through comprehensive and effective risk management programs, we have a duty to prevent the preventable and mitigate that which can be mitigated. Adaptation alone cannot be enough. At minimum, we have an immediate duty to ensure that we do not exacerbate the problem by failing to take the necessary and doable steps to reduce the threats posed by climate change, including sea level rise and higher incidence of catastrophic weather events. We recognize that sustainable development, Madam Chairman, is imperiled by unmitigated risk on the one hand and fostered by effective measures of risk reduction and resilience on the other. Building resilience into all development and infrastructure policies is therefore imperative. As we look to Sendai, we should aim for an international framework that will help all countries to give effect to the goals of DRR and resilience in practical and measurable ways. These efforts must rely on evidence-based approaches, and we therefore urge concerted efforts to identify and define underlying risk drivers and emerging hazards that can precipitate disasters. There must also be a focused approach to not only managing and reducing existing risks, but to preventing the creation of new risk. Communities must be empowered through inclusion in multi-stakeholder dialogue on DRR policy at all levels, and must be afforded access to accurate information and resources to fulfill their task. Madam Chair, we know that merely elaborating goals cannot be enough. Robust monitoring and evaluation mechanisms supported by well-defined and measurable targets and key indicators must be key components of our policy. No country is immune from disasters. We all suffer from one or the other manifestation of the global disaster risks and events. With that recognition firmly in mind, we must pursue strong international partnerships and cooperation. Efforts at the international level must take into account the specific characteristics of countries that face particular vulnerabilities, such as SIDS, and ensure that approaches to disaster response, recovery, and rehabilitation, as well as resilience, take these considerations fully into account. For Jamaica, we see collective and coherent approaches, commitments, and actions not as a luxury, but rather a necessity. A post-2015 DRR agenda must therefore complement and build upon efforts already underway at regional, sub-regional, and national levels. The Government of Jamaica, Madam Chair, remains committed to this process and stands ready to engage going forward on the elaboration of a post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction. I thank you.
I thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and also for your kind words addressed to the co-chairs.